Enderman Slayer is one of the most difficult slayers in the entire game. It can come off as a daunting task, especially when the boss you're fighting one-taps you in a matter of seconds. This is most likely why you're actually clicking on this video. Contrary to popular belief, this boss is relatively easy and can be done in 3 simple steps. Not only will following these steps make a tier 4 killable with simple requirements such as no atom split, ender artifact, and 500 million coin pets, the goal of today's video is to not only kill a tier 4, but be efficient with your money, time, and utilizing aspects of every corner of the game to make this boss seem like a joke. Step 1 of the video is one of the most crucial things in the game, being gear. The armor set is pretty simple, being the final destination armor alongside of the sword, going for an atom split katana, but this can easily be done with a vorpal blade. Also, you're going to want some nice pets. Enderman pet is going to be your best bet. Iron claws is perfectly doable because it will increase your crit damage by about 30%. If you have more money, then going for a golden dragon can be a little bit more beneficial. You are going to need a high bank and good defense to actually get away with it, but I do not suggest actually using a golden dragon just because it costs so much and you can't really have as much EHP, so if you make a mistake there's a higher chance of actually dying. With that being said, once you do have the armor, you want to make sure everything has at least ancient and hot potato books. Refrigerate 3, 4, or 5, I suggest 4. Get a little bit more bang for your buck. On your Atom Split Katana, Swarm is going to be the best ultimate enchant, and you want at least Ender Slayer 6 and Drain on it. Drain is going to heal you per every single hit. The old name for it was Siphon. As you can see here, it heals you for 0.5 of your max HP per 100 crit damage up to 1000, meaning it heals you for 5% per hit, which is absolutely insane. Other basic enchants like Crit 6, Execute 5, and the small things that can help improve your damage are very important too. Next, you want an aspect of the end or void. This isn't entirely for the teleporting to get to beacons, but I can get to that later. But the Enderman pet has a perk here called Teleport Savvy. It buffs your damage on your weapon for 50, meaning you can get up to 100,000 more damage per hit just because you hit an aspect of void teleport. Next, you're going to want a Hurricane Bow with a full quiver of explosive arrows so you can hit phase the boss a little bit more efficiently. More on that later in the video. Also, you want a Wand of Restoration or Atonement if you want more heals. Ultimate wise is definitely helpful if you're not going to be having Wisdom on your final destination armor. Then your equipment, you want some dungeon equipment, 2/4, David Cloak, and Rift Necklace. You can also probably get away with end equipment, but if you're going to use something worse in one portion of this, you want to increase on others, so maybe if you're going to use bad equipment, put Fumings or something on your armor, or focus a little bit more on your sword. Next, there's some specific talismans you might want, starting with the Tarantula Talisman, making you deal a lot more damage per hit, and the specific E-Man talismans that are from drops, like the Pocket Espresso, Soulful Battery. The Handy Blood Chalice is pretty important because it gives about 20 ferocity during the fight, which can be multiplied for your damage. One last thing that is incredibly crucial as a piece of equipment is the Overflux Power Orb, because it gives you 100% more mana regen and 2.5 more max HP every second. So not only are you going to be healing majority of your health back, but you're going to be at high mana at all times during the boss fight. Last but not least, the most incredibly important thing is magic power. At least 450 to 600 magic power is necessary, running Itchy, so you can have an even balance between strength and crit damage. Keep in mind the ability on your final destination armor does grant 30 strength, so take that into account when tuning your stats. You want there to be an even balance. As you can see, I might have more strength than crit damage, so I'll put my tuning into crit damage. As you guys know, gear is really important. It's going to help your damage a bunch. Of course, you can also have all the gear in this video and still struggle against a boss. That's why the next 2 steps are going to come in here. Now, you might actually go ahead and try to do a tier 4, and you might struggle, doing a lot less damage and taking a lot more, wondering why is this so difficult? Well, that's because you're missing a lot of passive buffs that can be gained from skills, attributes, and etc. As you can see, combat level, I have about combat 46, and I get 180% more damage, opposed to maybe the average combat 24 who gets 96. Also, you can get lots of things like HP from farming, HP from fishing, defense from mining, and strength from foraging. Now, these are all relatively easy and basic, but there's even deeper and more complex buffs that you can gather. As you can see, if you go into the hunting section of the game, there's lots of other buffs you can accumulate to make your setup better. For starters, there's the really cheap and easy to get Ender Resistance. To get this, you just have to pocket a black hole a normal zealot. Next, if you pocket a black hole a bruiser, it gives you 30% more damage against ender creatures, which is incredibly useful. Another shard I forgot to mention was the warrior shard dropped from a barbarian duke killed with a pocket black hole. This gives 25 entire percent more melee damage, which of course you're doing E-Man Slayer with an Atom Split Katana. Last but not least, there's something called the Elite or Power Dragon Shard, which goes up to 30% more damage against bosses and mini bosses. There's lots of other attributes that give things like health, intelligence, strength, bonus attack speed, and etc. But for sure it's not entirely necessary or important to get these small minor strength, intelligence, or speed bonuses for this boss, but the crucial 4 that I mentioned at the start are definitely needed to do this boss. Alright, now that you have the gear and equipment to do this, let's actually find out how you're supposed to do this. So for starters, you're going to want the Dark End Texture Pack from Modern Soldier. This texture pack makes everything so much cleaner and makes the end so much more enjoyable because everything's not like cheese yellow for some reason. Okay, for starters, there's the hits phase where you want to tag the boss with your hurricane bow and explosive arrows. Make sure you're shifting so you can get ferocity from your armor set bonus. One thing is you need to make sure you're not hitting yourself with this explosive arrows because you'll just die instantly. Next, you want to DPS the boss while maintaining a 2-block distance so it doesn't hit you for large amounts of damage, as you can see here. And you want to also make sure your sword is golden for the ability, and you're shifting to deal loads of more damage, like 400 more ferocity, 100 more ferocity on the armor, and then 100% more damage to Enderman. Next, use this laser phase to heal up to full and place your overflux. Next is the beacon phase. The boss holds a beacon and then it throws in a 360-degree angle around. You have about 5 seconds to touch this beacon, either standing on top of it or running up against it, or it kills you. There's going to be a couple beacons throughout the boss fight. I suggest having mods and aspect the ending towards it. Last but not least, when the boss hits around 70 million HP, it throws some skulls out. These skulls, if you don't look at them, they slowly tick you for large amounts of damage. Finally, you want to DPS the rest of the boss and reap the rewards. Now that you can actually kill a tier 4, here's a couple ways to increase your damage to do it a little quicker. This is going to be a quick segment because everything is pretty self-explanatory. Number 1 is obviously recomming your armor, going for a Ender Dragon or a Golden Dragon, hypermaxing your Atom Split like Enderman Slayer 7, Triple Strike 5, Sharpness 6, and etc., including all these gemstone slots that are in your sword and Swarm 5. Also, a Terminator instead of a Hurricane Bow can be quicker on the hits phase. Quick things like in keeping the Mythic E-Man pet for the Combat Wisdom and having other small Combat Wisdom buffs like the Shards. Maxing out your David's Cloak Strength. Getting 8 out of 8 time charms for your Rift Necklace. Using Molten Equipment for strength. Putting Fumings on your Atom Split Katana. And going for even more amounts of MP into the 1000s. And using Hurtful instead of Itchy. With that being said, there's thousands of more upgrades, and that's the beauty of Skyblock, and those are for you to find out. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe. If you want more tutorials, comment down below, and forging video out soon.